Welcome to a special edition of the CatchMark History Series brought to you by Durga Insurance. With the annual Battle of the Bell looming, we're going to take a look at the history of the Montague and Whitehall football rivalry. There is a place on the shores of Lake Michigan, a place where two towns exist, separated physically by a body of water, but separated emotionally by the Grand Canyon. To the traveler, these two towns are the same, and one would hardly be able to tell when they left Montague and entered Whitehall. To those raised here, the divide is crystal clear and rivalry as fierce as the day it began. History is a fickle thing. Events of the past fade away like photographs bleached by time. You know what happened, but the picture, the image, isn't as clear as it once was, in some cases fading into nothing and being lost to time forever. The history of the Montague and Whitehall rivalry is similar. No one is quite sure when it began, no one is quite sure when the bell was introduced, and no one is completely sure where the all-time record stands. One thing we know for sure is that football began in the White Lake area around 1900, and almost immediately, the competing towns of Montague and Whitehall took their battles to the field. The first official game in the series was played in 1921, but the rivalry is actually much older. An article printed in the Whitehall Forum dated December 1, 1901 reported,
On Thanksgiving Day, a goodly crowd of football enthusiasts accompanied our team to Montague, where they played a game with the Montague boys on the grounds near the high school. The game was an exciting one, and the rivalry existing between the two towns was distinctly manifest on the field, and in the game it was at its height. Both teams were about evenly matched in size and weight, and the game proved them both well-skilled in the tricks of the game.
The game ended in a 0-0 tie. After a fumble and recovery was disputed, a fight broke out, and both teams quit with 15 minutes left in regulation. Over the next 120 years, the rivals have continued to cross White River to face one another. Football looked drastically different in those times. Ben Quinn, in his 1949 historical article, states,
Football, from 1915 to 1919, was at one of its lowest stages. In the games with Whitehall, both schools used players who were not in school due to a shortage of students. One of those years there was one helmet, and the guy who carried the ball would wear it.
Things changed quickly. Uniforms were purchased, goalposts erected, and coaches hired. Football in the White Lake area began to slowly metamorphosize into something that resembles the game today. One thing always remained the same: the heated rivalry between the two towns and their football teams. In 1931, the West Michigan Conference was formed. Its founding members included Whitehall, Montague, Hart, Shelby, and Scottville, now Mason County Central. Football in West Michigan was now official and has been ever since. Things are a little hazy regarding records, scores, pictures, and details of those first years, but one thing was certain: Montague and Whitehall were still battling. In the 1950s, the teams played twice a season. Opening and closing with a crosstown rivalry game would have been pretty awesome. Equally fun would be the possibility of the bell being at both schools in one season. The bell, however, wasn't part of the early rivalry. No one knows for sure, but consensus is that the bell was introduced in the mid-1950s. In her article from the White Lake Beacon, Sally Slaughter writes,
Jack Bendelow, who coached the Montague Gritters from 1953 until 1969, believed the tradition began in 1955 when Whitehall and Montague played each other for the conference championship.
What is certain is for more than 50 years the annual Battle of the Bell has been marked on the calendars of players, coaches, and residents alike. This is evident in the attendance record set on November 14, 1958. Official attendance, according to the Montague Observer, was listed at 2,370, but unofficially the Observer reports that
In some quarters, it is believed that the attendance at the game was 5,000.
This year marks the 115th time that the Cross River rivals have officially met, and the edge is still as sharp as ever. The Wildcats lead the all-time series 64-48-2, but since 1950 the matchup is extremely competitive at 41-36. 25 of those games have been decided by 8 points or less, and 7 of those games by a single point. Even more incredible is the average score in a Battle of the Bell matchup, with less than half a point separating the two teams. In over 100 years of play, these two teams have essentially played to a tie. Whitehall opened the new century with a win in 2000, but the last 20 years has been tough sledding for the Vikings. The Bell has graced the halls of Montague High School for 18 of the last 21 years, with the Vikings briefly snatching her back in 2006 and 2014. Last year's game was an instant classic, with the Wildcats winning on a last-second field goal, en route to a state championship. Because of attendance restrictions, no records were broken, but more than 5,000 people watched the broadcast live. Not bad for two towns with a combined population of just under 5,400. One thing is certain, this is one of the best rivalries in the country, and if last year is any indication of things to come, these two conference title contenders will produce another instant classic for us this year. So, whether you are a Viking or a Wildcat, grab your gear and head out to the game, or catch the live stream on the CatchMark Sports YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us today at the CatchMark History channel, as we explore the origins of the Cross River rivalry. A big thank you to our sponsor, Durga Insurance Group. Without their support, these videos wouldn't be possible. Please check them out at www.durgainsurance.com.